On another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I am your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave your comments. And today we have Rich Cooper, who many of you following my channel may know. Whoever is involved in anything red pill related definitely would be familiar with Rich. He has quite a sizable YouTube channel. He has more than one YouTube channel. He has Rich Cooper clips. He has Entrepreneurs in Cars. Am I missing any channel?
Unplugged Alpha podcasts. Those are the main
Unplugged
ones.
Alpha
Yeah.
podcast. And then I'm already there's just so many things you do, man. Hold on. I'm sorry. And then in terms of he has a website. He has the Unplugged Alpha. There's two editions. There's the first and second edition. Highly suggest you read it. I have to go read it. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have to go read it myself, but I just went through the 21 red flags and they're awesome. They're very important for anyone looking to date. So thank you for coming on. This is the second time you've come on. Unfortunately, YouTube decided to have some fun with the first video. So thank you for
No
being
problem,
on
man. We'll
again.
stay away from the things that created problems last time.
Right. Okay. So last time we kind of went through red flags a little bit, but some of these things may be triggering to some of my listeners, and to that I say too fucking bad. That's kind of what I said on the last episode we did. So going into a couple of the flags, I know that one of them is definitely the parental challenges that some women have, right? Some they either have daddy issues or mommy issues. So
Sure.
go into a little bit as to why that's so troubling for for a guy looking to date somebody with those issues.
Well, it starts with a premise, I think, that you're a strong, virtuous leader of a man, right? Because if you're some plugged-in beta male that's just like, goes with what the cultural narratives happen to be at that time, um, none of these things are going to make a difference for you, if we're being honest. This is for guys that don't want to invite chaos or chaotic women into their life because they lead and they have the capacity to choose. Let's be honest, a lot of guys don't have the capacity to choose. And the first girl that touches her PP, they want to, get husband and wife things going on. So you can't have a relationship with any of these women that have any of these red flags that I talk about in this list. And by the way, you can get this list for free by opting into my email list if you go to my website at richcooper.ca. But these are the things that popped up the most often. I think I put daddy issues at the top simply because it's not good. I mean, if you're a strong, virtuous, masculine type of guy, you're a leader, you're putting a dent in the universe, you know how to make bank, you're captivating, you're influential, you're not a boring guy, you've got a good social network. The last thing you want to do is deal with a woman that doesn't respect a man. I think the strongest influence in a woman's life is her father and the sort of role that he plays in the worldview that she uses to assess the world is incredibly important. Um, I would recommend all guys contemplating a woman on a long-term basis be comfortable in the sense where they would sit down and just hang out with their girl's dad for hours and have a conversation about anything and be totally fine and comfortable. That's a good sign. A woman that didn't have a father around, the first thing they always say, well, how is that my fault? Maybe that's true. It could have been he was a loser and he ran off. It could have been mom pushed him out of the household and it was just intolerable and he just decided to stay out of the way. Either way, it potentially may not be her fault, but it would be her fault if she carried the baggage into perpetuity. A lot of women will just want to carry the victim card and want to be like, oh, poor me. I'm this poor victim. Things aren't fair. And that's one of the red flags, by the way, is, women with a victim mindset. So being able to work on any deficiencies that they have personality wise or baggage wise, I think is incredibly important. But it's pretty common now. I think most guys understand that women that don't have a good relationship with their father tend to have daddy issues. They tend to have BPD, borderline personality disorder. They tend to have abandonment issues. Often they'll act out in ways with men in relationships that will ensure abandonment just because of their behavior and the way they behave. So Yeah, sure. You know, you can have a relationship with one of these gals, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable. She won't be a compliment to your life. It'll be difficult. It'll be more difficult than a woman that doesn't have daddy issues, that has a good relationship with her dad.
For sure. Definitely. It's just I think and you brought it up, someone who say the mother kicked the father out of the house, maybe he was an alcoholic or he just
Yeah.
wasn't a good parent, maybe he was abusive. So an obvious response to that from women who might have had this growing up is they would say, okay, well, this wasn't exactly my fault. What would you say to them if a woman came on your show, Rich, and said, hey, I grew up with a father that just really wasn't good to me nor my siblings. Does that mean I don't deserve love? What should I do about it? What would you kind of say to her?
Well, I think one of the fundamental problems that arise out of that situation is mom's got to take some of the blame for this too, right? Because she chose dad.
For
You know,
sure.
she like he didn't accidentally fall in her and nut in her. Like there was a conscious decision making process that they went through, and she decided to say, "Just go in me, it's safe" or whatever. So there's got to be some ownership taken for the decisions that she made with who she chose as the child's father. The problem that I've noticed with a lot of these women that choose terrible men as fathers for their children is they often spend a good part of the children's formative years going on about how men ain't shit. Woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. You got to go out and, make sure that you don't have to rely on anybody. You got to get a degree or three. Make sure you have a career. Um, and I think that a lot of these single parent households, where moms didn't have a father around and they had to raise a kid by themselves is unfortunate. But it's the reality of the world that we deal with. And I think it's probably what has formed a lot of the single women today that are well into their 30s, 40s, and 50s that are all boss girls and career women. And, they've got their IKEA furniture and their Tesla and their degrees on the walls, usually with some student debt as well. But they don't have a man in their life and they're unhappy and they're single because they prioritize themselves and didn't really do the work to be a good complement in a relationship. So again, like at the end of the day, once you're an adult, whether you're a man or woman, it doesn't matter to me. But once you're an adult, and you realize that there's deficiencies, if you want to take ownership for them, you should work on them. There's people that can walk you through that sort of stuff. I don't do that. That's not my area of expertise. I'm not a specialist in that area, but there are trained practitioners that deal with trauma, childhood trauma, and
Hmm.
dealing with the baggage. I think is incredibly important. But I think one thing that a lot of guys have noticed as they sort of deal with women, as they get older, there's a lot of gals out there that carry around a lot of baggage. And they just never get rid of that luggage.
Right. Yeah, it's very hard to look in the mirror, and that's why it's very interesting that you have so many. I definitely tend to find this more common with women who end relationships. They'll always
Mhm.
throw out the toxic,
Oh, my dad was
controlling.
like this to my mom, or my
Right.
mom, or my stepdad, or my mom's boyfriends, or whatever it happens to be. It's like, okay, well, there's a common denominator here, right? I mean, you know what I mean?
You chose this person. If you
Yeah,
continue to choose the same people and you end up getting the same result, I think Albert Einstein's insanity definition kind of reigns
correct.
true. So then obviously you mentioned single moms that that obviously triggers a lot of people. I think just kind of going and covering a lot of the bases with the 21 red flags, because I think a lot of them tie into each other. When you look at it as a guy, you see 21 things on that list, you go, how in the world do I find somebody that doesn't have at least one of those things?
It's very difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also think that as a guy, you have to be realistic and say, have I dated women that tend to have several of these things? And what do I need to do to be a guy that can find someone that doesn't have any of them?
Yeah, so the answer to the second question is to have options, to be the most valuable version of yourself that you can be. Because if you want to have options on the sexual marketplace to choose from better women, you have to be a top shelf guy. Um, every single guy that's gone through that chapter in my book or talked about their divorce or some horrific breakup, they'll they'll go through the list and they're like, dude, my ex-wife had 18 of the 21. My ex-girlfriend had 17 of the 21. Um, it's people can protest and get mad at it, but like the facts are still there, like they still exist. It doesn't really matter how they make you feel. The fact still remains that these are problematic, and you ideally want to keep women like this at arm's length, right? Just
Mhm.
never get into a long-term relationship with them. Have better options, right? And how do you have better options? You become the best version of yourself. You level yourself up. You do something with your life. The burden of performance is on men to go out there and actually do something. So complaining or whining or whinging about their options being too low, or this encompasses every woman, is another one that I've heard. But Rich, every woman that I meet is like this. Well, it's because you're like attracts like, basically. So
Mhm.
if you want better women, go out there and become a better version of yourself. There's some really terrific women out there. There really is. It's just you're gonna have to dig through a lot of dirt to find gold, because a lot of women today are broken.
Right. No, I agree, but I think it's also just to expound on your point, not to argue it. What I'm noticing as I get older and I am becoming more confident, more capable, more intelligent, is when a woman sees that you're very focused on something, or could be more than one thing, and they see you're very passionate and you're you put it ahead of pretty much everything you do, there's going to be a very high level of respect because it's not so common. Most guys, no matter what age, they don't have a lot of direction. They aren't sure what they want to do, or they do something, they have an everyday job they hate.
Mm,
And so if they don't have direction, they'll tend to prioritize her over whatever he's doing. And that sounds nice in theory, but in practice, women are very attracted to men that have a very, very strong sense of what their purpose is. And so even if they may have some traits that aren't ideal, I think in order to keep that guy, they'll understand that if they don't control those, whether they're urges or whether they have the desire to maybe be competitive, when they see that, when they understand that he isn't going to tolerate certain things,
mm,
they won't, they'll feel less inclined, or they'll be afraid to show those traits near him as much as they would go ahead and absolutely disrespect a different guy. Do you agree with that?
yeah, yeah,
Not to say
that
that you
makes sense.
shouldn't, not to say that you should go for them altogether. It's a much smarter move to go for someone that doesn't have certain traits altogether.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I just find that to be the case. Like I can just tell that I can interact with a certain girl and she'll have a certain level of respect for me.
Mm,
Where if, let's say, I was out of shape, or I was working at a Publix, no shit, no disrespect to people working at Publix, if as long as they have something that they're working on, but she's probably going to interact with him very differently just on the basis of respect.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no question about it.
right, absolutely. And then ties me to my next point, because I was just watching a video you did on YouTube. You were mentioning never arguing with a woman that you're either dating or
Yeah.
with. So that obviously that could definitely lead up a lot of people to contest that and say, okay, well, how do you avoid arguments in a marriage or a relationship? So
Yeah, I think
what do you
the
say to that?
I think the common misconception, we all fall in this trap. I mean, I did as well too, is that you think that you can use logic and reason to negotiate with a woman. And the problem is women don't let logic and reason get in the way of their emotions. Um, if you win, you lose, because at the end of the day, she doesn't believe you anyway. You win with logic and reason, and she feels like an idiot, and you don't win anyway. And if you let her win, then she wins on the basis of emotion. She's not going to respect you. So it's a lose-lose proposition to begin with. So you just don't do it. Um, I think there's certain conversations that you're probably going to have. The woman in a long-term relationship, you're going to have disagreements, obviously. Um, there's certain ones that you might need to engage in. But I think for the most part, just making an early frame statement. Um, when you're dating, maybe the first time that it comes up, when she comes to you and says, "Hey, where do we stand? I dig your vibe. I want to claim you. I don't want to share you. Like, where's this going?" It's one of the times that you can bring it up then too as well. But just say, look, I'm not going to argue with you. She wants to argue with you about something silly. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not gonna play that game. There's a really good article that James Altucher put together. I think it's a blog at one point, where he was talking about dealing with arguments and haters and disagreements and stuff like that. And he's like, these people are like pigs, and that's not to disparage women or to compare them to pigs or to call them pigs, but they're like pigs.
It's
They
funny,
want you
by
to
the way,
get
it's
down.
Rich, real quick to interject. It's funny that you even have to preface
I know
that,
you do have
because
to
as
clarify it
soon
today.
well, today, but it's also more an emotional brain's going to hear pig and go, "Oh, is that what you're calling me?"
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
do. That's funny that you have to do that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is where we are. But I mean, they want you to get down in the mud and they want you to roll around in their little silly game, and you just disengage. You don't engage with the nonsense. You just tell them straight up, like, I'm not going to get into that nonsense. I use a red card, yellow card, situation like on football pitches, like the referees use. A red card would be a soft or a hard next, which basically means you just don't talk to them for several days. You just pull away your attention, and this this works best when you're dating. I mean, you can't do this if you're living together and married. Obviously, it's very difficult to perform a soft or hard next if you're married. I mean, a hard next is a termination of the relationship. A soft is really just you break contact for several days and let them think about it. It usually becomes very uncomfortable for them. They text you, they call you, and you don't respond, and then you basically come back after a couple of days and be like, "Do we have an understanding here now?" Right? Like you understand I'm
Mhm.
not going to play this game, and they usually fall in line.
Well, what happens when
The
you're married? What happens if you live with
it's
them? How would you
it's
approach it?
much tougher. Fixing a crappy relationship with a problem woman with a whole bunch of red flags is just too much work. I'll be completely honest with you. You can try it, and you're going to make a lot of effort trying to fix a crappy situation that you've let perpetuate into time. But for most guys, what they find is like the knots untying anyway, and the relationship is going to run its course, to the end. It's just going to be difficult for them. So I mean, you can try, but this like these sorts of strategies that I talk about work best when you're inviting a woman into your life in the early stages, when she's again saying, Rafi, where do we stand? I dig your vibe. I want to claim you. I don't want to share you. Where's this going? This is when
Hmm.
you can, bring up the top of like, yeah, I like you too. But one of the things that's a bit of a problem for me is I don't get into arguments with, women over silly things. Like it's not worth my time. And you kind of have a tendency of doing that. So you're gonna have to knock it off, if you want me to take you
Hmm.
seriously, right? You're basically giving her the choice. You're basically saying, look, I like you too, but this behavior's got to stop if you want me to take you seriously. So stop it, knock it off.
I
Um,
think. Sorry, go
let me
ahead.
just get to the yellow card thing, before you get to
Sure.
that bit. So the yellow card is like it's much simpler. It's basically just a warning, like, hey, I'm not going to argue about that, and then you just leave. You leave, you go to the next room. You're in the living room, you go to the kitchen, you make yourself a drink. You're in the garage, you go in the kitchen. Like whatever it happens to be, you just make it very clear that you're not going to get down in the mud and roll around with them.
Hmm.
It's I'm not arguing about that nonsense, and then you walk away.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think it's also that women like to start arguments if they feel that things are
Too good.
too good,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong, and so they want to make sure that you're still invested, and so they'll start
Yeah.
drama in order to bring you back to them, which is just
it's yeah, it's manufactured, and it's
it's not
and it's
conducive.
it's silly, and it's exhausting, and it's tied into a few of the other red flags. It's just not a preferential treatment. It's not a strong character trait of a good woman that is going to manufacture drama out of thin air. Women like this. They like the drama, like the gossip stories, the gossip categories. They'll sit around with the girls drinking wine, talking shit about other girls or other girls' relationships or other men. They'll spend a lot of time watching drama unfold on TV, like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, shows like this,
All of these
right?
shows that I have
So
yeah,
that's a pretty strong indicator to me that that's a woman that you don't want to spend too much time with or even take seriously.
for sure. No, the truth of the matter is it comes the more, it tends to come with age and experience. The more men she's been with, the older she
Yeah.
gets, the more this tends to be a challenge. And I'm not the most religious person, but I tend to find traditional values tends to help with a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
It's just been my experience, and so that's really what I would suggest to
And
people.
and traditional values come from traditional households.
For
Usually
sure.
where there's a patriarchal type of household where the man has a strong defined role. He does the blue jobs, the woman does the pink jobs. They complement each other. They work together, towards family tasks and manners. They enforce boundaries collectively. It's not, the kid goes from one parent to the other parent when they don't like a boundary that's enforced, and the other parent opens up the boundary sort of thing. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to tradition.
I completely agree. So just to go back a little bit to to what you were saying, what do you think is an example or two of an argument that's necessary that especially if you know that
Mm,
your girl, your wife, or your girlfriend, for the most part, you may have disagreements, but those disagreements tend to make the relationship stronger because I do
mhm.
believe that that's the case similarly with a guy friendship. What's an example, at least one example of an argument that's necessary or a
Well, let's
disagreement
talk
that's
about
necessary?
an argument that's unnecessary first before we do
Right.
the necessary one. So, Jordan Peterson's a name that most people recognize. I took a listen at his three-part course on marriage, where he encourages guys to march into the slaughterhouse and man up and get married. He says that it's not enough just to love a woman or date her or to be with her. You have to take vows in front of the church and make a commitment to her. And then he also talks about negotiating or arguing, depending on how you want to interpret the word, everything all the way down to where the scissors go in the utility drawer. I don't give a flying fuck where the scissors go in whatever drawer. Just let me know where they're at when I need them. That's fine. Right.
Right.
But I think there's way too much out there that emphasizes talking about every little thing that happens in the relationship down to where the scissors go. What's an important, discussion to have? Are we going to homeschool the kids or are we going to put them in the school system? Um, that's an important conversation to
Oh,
talk about.
that should be discussed, I think, before even
Yeah.
getting into even you forget about marriage. When you early on into relatively early on into dating, I would have that conversation because
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person, by the way, and
You
I've
want to be
been
on the
this way
same
since
page. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. I actually Patrick Bet David, I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
He uh he sat down with his now wife, I think of 11 years, and he went through a whole list. Most men would be scared to do that. They'd be scared to lose a girl over that.
Hmm.
And I have immense respect for him because he said, "Hey, if I'm going to do this thing, because he was a playboy when he was younger,
Hmm.
and he's like, if I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to take this risk of marrying this person, I better make sure that all of our values are aligned. Otherwise, I'm not doing
Hmm.
it."
And there's
And I
certain things
think,
that you don't want to negotiate either. Like, well, where are we going to go on vacation? Well, if I'm paying for the vacation, we're going where I want to go. You know what I'm saying?
right.
The purchase of the next car. I don't really care, if you like that brand or the badge that's on it. I'm the car guy. I know what car is good for the family. We're getting this car, right? And I don't want to hear any pushback about it, right? Because every time a woman, pushes back with this sort of nonsense, is draining to a man. It's, it's a little bit of a effort to like take him down a notch so that so there's a competition or there's a prolonged discussion or some drama over something that doesn't really require, like, I'm not going to tell you how to cook the turkey on Thanksgiving if you've got culinary skills, right?
Hmm. Right. I think when it comes to the car, if she's pretty reasonable, like if she's pretty easygoing, and I know she likes a Mini Cooper, then, and I feel like I want to get her the Mini Cooper, I'll get her the Mini Cooper because I know she likes it. But that would be my take.
Hmm.
Why do you think, and I know the answer to this, but for the viewers,
Sure.
why is there this constant paradox where women want you to be confident, strong, they want you to be a leader? Why do they always seem to be testing that? I have my own answer. I'm sure it's very much aligned with yours. But for guys that can't seem to figure this out, why is it that if they want you to be all these things, then why are they always seeming to try to knock you off of that? Why are they always seeming to try to bring you away from it?
Well, it's inherent in their DNA to seek competent, virtuous, strong, resourceful men, right? Otherwise, if they didn't 1,000 years ago, it would spell certain death for her and the children because she'd pair bond with the loser and he wouldn't be able to provide and protect and all that good stuff. Today, though, the inherent uh, hardwiring that their DNA tells them to seek for in good men conflicts with the modern narrative. You don't need a man. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Women are oppressed. The patriarchy, 77 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes, blah, blah, blah. So they're constantly pushing back on men, I think. And this is one of the reasons why you want to look for a woman that's got a good relationship with her father, that followed the boundaries that he set and enforced and was happy to do so, so that you don't have to endure misery and disparaging conversations with her in your long-term relationship. Again, going back to the original point that I kicked off at the start, these sorts of concepts that I talk about are for guys like me, right? Like guys that are leaders, that aren't plugged in beta males that sort of like go downstream like dead fish, right? So making these choices and having this level of awareness is Not just informative, but it's also useful in enjoying your life as a guy.
For sure. But by the way, I think most women, if they're honest with themselves, they want this. I think for
Yeah,
some of them, they're a little afraid of it because to them it sounds controlling, especially if they are not used to being around normal. I think it's just normal traditional men.
yeah.
So I think inherently, if they can let go of a little bit of that kind of toxic feminism,
It's
then they
funny.
can say,
There was a Reddit post that I shared the other day on Twitter, I think. Let me see if I can find it real quick on my phone as we talk here. But she was basically breaking down in a post. I've got this successful guy. He's wealthy. He's athletic. He's got musical talent. Makes lots of money. He gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Goes to bed at
mm,
9. He's always working, making loads of money. Blah blah blah. But I feel intimidated by him. I feel like, oh, here it is. Let me read it to you, because I think this is the epitome of the typical woman that will fight a successful guy that wants to set the boundaries. So she says, "My boyfriend is intimidating, Ivy League, fitness freak, plays multiple instruments, has a career that's just insane. He's also sweet, funny, and caring. However, living together is tough. It's almost like living with a machine. He's up at 5, hits the gym, goes to the office, comes back at 7, reads the news, writes his correspondence, then heads to bed. His phone is always ringing, business friends, academics, invites to charity events, you name it. It's just very intimidating. I know a lot of women think that this is the ideal man. It's weird. I think so many men I've met have been pushed away from masculine norms. And when you actually meet somebody who is in every sense a traditional man is frightening. It's like living with a force of nature, someone who is on a mission to the very top. I'm not like that. I like to bake cookies with my girlfriends and have brunch with the girls. I want to lay in bed on the weekends. Most of my friends are girls who love to work but also have other priorities. To be honest, although a lot of us say we want to be a girl boss, you've heard that term 1,000 times now, right? Most of
mm,
us really just want to live a quiet, happy life and have a family. Anyways, I feel like I shouldn't stop him. I should not get in the way, but he makes me feel very insecure. I think that this is the cultural uh, poisoning that girls today are drunk on, the toxic version of feminism, where it's like she literally finds the perfect man. The woman that you see on all these podcasts all the time saying, I want a high value man, she's literally described and she feels uncomfortable and odd being around it. Isn't that interesting?
I think Patrice O'Neill, you've heard of
Yeah,
Patrice
of
O'Neill.
course.
I think he kind of just listen. I'm just gonna put it, and I really have a great connection to so many women that I've met over the years. I was raised by my grandmother, and I'm critical, but I'm also just as critical of myself and men. So I'm not one-sided about it. I just feel that because women have emotional brains, they know how to find the negative in things
Mhm.
quite quickly, even if there's so many good things. They just know how to do that
Yeah, we
one
were
way or
saying that
another.
earlier, right? Like women like to manufacture drama, right?
Yeah, they know how to
If
do
there's
that. It's
no
just how it
drama, if
is.
there's no discomfort in the relationship, she literally took the time to sit down or write a post on the internet on Reddit saying, "This is my complaint about my perfect
He's too perfect.
man. He's too perfect,
He's too
right?
perfect. Something is
Why do I feel insecure about it? You're not supposed to feel insecure. You're actually feeling comfort. The insecurity that you think you're feeling is because you're drunk on the Kool-Aid of toxic feminism.
right.
That's, told you to compete against men, to never be a compliment to a man's life. Like this is literally the perfect man that every woman describes that they want.
It's crazy. There was also what was oh my I'm not so into basketball anymore like I used to be. Who I'm sure you remember this. Who in the world? Steph Curry, his wife. You probably remember that, right?
I've
Familiar?
I'm trying to recall the story. I'm not a basketball fan. I don't follow popular culture with stuff like that. So you're gonna have to.
Okay, so one of the most
She got
notable
bored of
NBA
him or
players in
something
the
like
last.
that.
I don't know if it was bored, maybe something along those lines, but she was complaining on these talk shows
Mm,
about how
yeah.
maybe he works too hard. I don't remember what it was, and everybody was just hammering her. Even a lot of women were like, "Are you out of your mind? Do you know how many women
A
would
world class athlete. Yeah. See,
world
that's the
class?"
thing, when they say that you can't make a woman happy, that's exactly what we're talking about. Because even the perfect man will not make a woman happy. She'll find
Yeah,
something in it to complain about. And let her. It's fine. Let her blow off
yeah,
the steam. Let her make the Reddit post. Let her have brunch with her girlfriends and say, my boyfriend is a machine. He makes me feel insecure. Let her. It's fine.
No, but I think also if she does have the right friends and the right friends have guys that don't even come close to that in so many avenues, I think when she sits down by herself, she goes, you know what, I'm kind of
Girl, you're
complaining about
crazy.
nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their husband is 50 pounds overweight. Meanwhile, her husband is incredibly in shape. That alone, forget about all the
Yeah.
other things.
But
And
it
they
also
have to,
seems that like, women want to take what other women have, if they're not good women of good moral character and they're sitting down and having brunch, it's entirely plausible that I call it the committee, because they're friends,
right,
because women don't usually make decisions on themselves, by
right.
themselves. They'll go out with their girlfriends and they'll have a WhatsApp chat or something like that, and they'll form a committee on a certain topic or idea.
Oh, that's
Um,
often how relationships are sabotaged
yeah, yeah,
because their
by
friends convince them something's wrong
exactly.
when it, yeah,
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 when
yeah.
there's really nothing wrong there.
Right. It's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but what were you saying about the committee? It sounded like you were gonna go
Yeah,
into
well
it a little bit.
that's what the committee does, to your point exactly, right? That they can discourage her from pursuing a long-term relationship with a guy because the committee doesn't approve of it, or they'll find some flaw in it somewhere, or they'll say that or they'll make her think, something like, oh, he's probably cheating on you if he's coming home at 7 o'clock at night, girl, because guys in that work or line of work don't do that sort of stuff. And it's like they can be problematic too. So I think it's really important as well, when you're vetting a woman, to take a look at the people that she spends time with, like her committee, if you will, or the five women that she spends the most time with, because she's going to be the average of them.
Right. I completely agree. I think that's true for men as well.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's true for
Yeah.
anybody. What do you think that a couple can be genuinely happy? I do not, but I just want to hear your thought. Well, I wouldn't say I don't think they can
Can
be
you
genuinely
define what
happy.
happiness is?
I think happiness is being able to look at the good parts of your life, understand that there are negatives and always will be, but
Mm,
you're always grateful that for the most part things are pretty good. And I also think happiness as a man comes from uh, constantly pursuing greatness, continuing
mhm.
to improve. I think that's what will always make you happy. But I wonder if you think that a man can be relatively happy or satisfied if his wife or girlfriend is the one leading the relationship. Do you think that's ever possible?
I think guys will lie to themselves and tell themselves that they're happy if she's leading. But somewhere within them, either a part of them is dying or has died off. It's not a good look. You see these relationships where women lead and these men follow. And they're these weak soy beta males, and she's, these powerful, career driven, multiple degreed leaders of the household, or they'll even call themselves partners. That's a term that I hear that pops up a lot when I have conversations with women on my podcast, and they'll come on, they'll say something like my partner, and I'll say to them, whoa, hold on a second, what do you mean by partner? Are you guys partners in a law firm? Like, how exactly are you partners and equal in every sense? Like, help me understand this. Um, yeah, so I think that women led relationships, they exist. Probably the vast majority of them out there are mostly women led. That's why you hear this atrocious soundbite, happy wife, happy life. It's like he'll do anything to make her happy, sort of thing. Which really just, over time, she slowly and surely loses respect and desire for him.
It's really crazy how common it's insane how common this is. I just bumped into an old neighbor from a couple of years ago, a really good guy, and he kept talking about for 2 or 3 minutes straight how lucky he is, which is
Mhm.
really sweet and cute.
Mhm.
But his wife was just looking at him, and she was just like, he's a good dude, but she was like, yeah, you better believe it, you did
These guys are
score.
all over social media on their birthdays and anniversaries. You'll see like a social media post, like on an anniversary, for example. I love these because I think these are hilarious. See, so it's a so it's an anniversary and it's a post of his wife and they're together with the children around them or something like that, or on a sunset. And it's a beautiful poetic post about how she's his everything and she completes him and she's his best friend and blah 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 sort of thing. And she's tagged in the post, right? So you click the tag on Facebook, right?
Mhm.
And his social media is a picture of him with the family, and the cover photo
I
is
know
him with the family
exactly
on the
where you're
beach.
going with this,
And you
Rich. I know
click through and you
exactly
go
where
over
the
to hers, and she's sitting on the beach with her girlfriends drinking wine.
There's
saying
not
nothing about them on the anniversary.
there's almost no picture of him on her page whatsoever.
Yeah, or if she says something, it's very watered down. It's like 10% of what he puts out there. So that's always never a good sign. Like that's your typical plugged in beta male today that worships the ground that she walks on and thinks that that's what she wants. And women don't want that. Women want to be with a giant. Women are hypergamous. They want to be able to look up to you. And if you're constantly putting them up on a pedestal and praising them, if you treat her like a celebrity, she's going to treat you like a fan, right?
I agree. What do you say to women who are listening to this and they say, you think into this too much, this isn't reality, things just work themselves out. You know what I mean? Because this is
Hmm.
this is a very detailed look on male and female psychology. So what would you say to the women that are like, oh, these guys are just so full of
Who
it, or
hurt
they're
you?
so, huh?
Who hurt you?
Right, that's the common thing.
Usually,
I
yeah.
mean,
No, it's standard. It's par for the course. It's usually some disparaging statement about who hurt you, or you've got a small man personality, or you're bald, or something like that. Um, it's very simple. You take a look at them in their lives, right? And then you ask yourself, would I want to trade my life for theirs? Would I want to trade my relationship for their relationship? Would I want to trade my gal for her? And for me, the answer is always no, 100% of the time. So you have to understand that hate always comes from beneath, right?
mhm,
People don't ever get jealous of losers. They're only spewing hate because they don't have anything, they don't have a argument to counter it, right? So all they
mhm.
do is they have to ad hom attack you, or they insult you, or they'll say you have a small PP, or somebody hurt you or something like that. But the truth of the matter is you're 100% right. Uh, Bombers only ever get flak when they're over the target. And that's the reality of that circumstance, right? So you
Very
just have
true. It's
to
very
you
true.
just have to laugh at it. It's like fine, whatever.
It's funny though, because I mean, my channel isn't big yet, and I do a lot of different kinds of content. This is definitely one of the main topics. A lot of the girls in my circles, whether I'm a Hebe, so a lot of the women in my circles tend to be more conservative anyway. I'm not going to
Hmm.
say there aren't definitely much, more feminist leaning women, but the ones that I interact with typically tend to agree with me on a lot of these things anyhow.
Yeah.
And I think they know that I'm not going to change my way of thinking regardless. So they can disagree with me all they want, and I really couldn't care less. But I come at it from a very I come at it from a very nurturing point of view. I want to be the leader. I want to be the provider. I want to be the one that makes sure they're safe physically, emotionally, spiritually. This is something I want. So for them to disagree with all that, to me, it's just I look at them kind of with a side eye and I go, if that's what you want, if you want what I do not want, I don't need anything I have no reason to interact with you altogether.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
never, it
it's
really never comes to that, to be honest. So
yeah, you'll see these tradcons, these traditional, conservative type of women that will kind of give you the side eye when you have these conversations. But when the bill comes, you're paying for it, right? If there's a bang in the night and an intruder breaks in the house, you're taking care of it, not them. So it's just like one of these problems with this toxic version of feminism today is it's like an a la carte for them, right? Like true equality does not exist. And they're constantly pushing for what they call equality, but they've had equality forever. They have more
mhm.
than equality. If anything, they have supremacy. If you take a look at how
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the family courts treat fathers when you get divorced, the advantage is completely in the mother's favor, always in all
without a
Western
question,
countries.
without a question.
So to say like, the things like, I don't really believe it, or the side eye sort of thing like that, but you're out on a date and, you're paying the bill and you're driving the car and you're dropping her off and you're taking care of her and all this sort of stuff. It's like, like, what's it going to be? You know,
Things are too comfortable, man. Once we established air conditioning and we have all of these roads,
it's
highways,
all
and
air
bridges,
conditioning's fault. And who created air conditioning? It's men. So that means it's men's fault.
that's just what it is. When a society gets too comfortable, women decide to step in then and kind of, they take all the easy, for the most part, non-heavy labor jobs that were put in place because of men. And
Yeah.
so, sure, it's very easy. If you've heard of the comedian Andrew Schultz, he jokes about this, but there's
Mhm.
a lot of reality behind it.
Yeah.
If all this infrastructure wasn't put in place and built by men, you wouldn't be able to go and do the things you want to do. You turn America back into the Stone Age and see how long these ridiculous ideas last. They won't last at all.
Correct.
So, I kind of just laugh at it, but I think obviously history repeats itself. Any country that has seen the highest points in society eventually sees lower points, and all of these attempted implementations to change what works always ends up showing up, meaning people end up realizing that it wasn't a very good idea to begin with.
Right.
Yes. So just wanted to quickly look at the list of topics that I mentioned because we have a little bit more time. We covered a lot of it. Oh, here's a good one. I think I might have mentioned it on the previous podcast, but this is something contested a lot, and I think you and I are also in alignment on this, but when it comes to a guy either settling down earlier or trying to build himself up, maybe as a single guy or just going through the motions, failing in business, having several relationships, there's guys who will say finding your girl young and growing with her is the better move, and kind of
Hmm.
maybe dating the first person you meet versus, so say if you compare it to a religious person, whether they're Jewish, Muslim, Christian, they get married at 18 or 19 to their first love. They lose their virginity to each other. Sometimes they get divorced because they didn't experience enough,
Hmm.
or they were pushed to do so by their parents and didn't really understand relationships whatsoever. Obviously, they don't know about anything you teach. Some of them work. Some of those relationships end up working. We don't know if they're happy or not, but they stay together. Then there are the relationships where the guy gets married at 30 or 32, 35, 40, or the girl gets married later. So what do you think is the most ideal way to go about it, or do you think it's just circumstantial?
I've thought about this and I think the conversation's different. If you have a son, marriage is a bad idea. If you have a daughter, marriage is a great idea,
Hmm.
especially if they marry a successful guy. Whether that happens at 35 or 25 or 20 is not really relevant. It's just the 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 notion of the way that family law works and the way that marriage works today is it's like the original purpose of marriage as it was used throughout history. There's a very interesting book on this. It's called Marriage: A History. The author's name is Stephanie Kuntz, and she went through personal diaries, court records, lots of information to try to establish like what is the point of marriage? Like why do people get married? And the entire point was the acquisition of in-laws, right? Because several thousand of years ago, we didn't have fire services, policing, education, medical services. So you would typically have a large family. You'd have siblings that had certain skills, and aunts and uncles that had certain skills, and grandparents that had certain skills, and the same thing on her side. So you would tend to blend those two things. And there was lowborn and there was highborn. There was always like status and categories, and you would try to blend like highborn with highborn, sort of thing. So the whole point was the acquisition of in-laws. So I think, today's notion of like, what's the best way to do it? Do we do it when we're young? Do we do it when we're old? What do religious convictions play as far as a part in all of this? Um, I, I just keep going back to this notion of if you have a son, marriage is not a good idea, and it requires many precautionary steps to make sure that you don't get destroyed. Whereas if you have a daughter, the only thing that you have to tell them, I tell my daughter this all the time, I said, just don't marry a loser. Make sure you find a successful guy that is competent, has his stuff together, and is capable of taking care of you and children.
Okay, well, what if to counter that, I agree. What would you say if you meet the guy, you're the father,
Yeah.
she introduces you to a guy, you think you've raised her well, she has pretty good judgment, she's a pretty good judge of character. Say she's 20, the guy's 22. Maybe he just got his bachelor's degree, or he
Mhm.
doesn't have a bachelor's, but he seems to be going in a good direction. What would you say to her then? He's a little older than her. He doesn't have his shit together yet, but he seems to be disciplined and in a good
Well, you
direction.
got to assess him, his character
Okay.
traits, his family character traits. The best prediction of somebody's future is, of course, going to be their past choices and behaviors. Um, I think if I think the best age range or differential, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere between 7 to 10 years. Um, it seems to work the best for cohesion for long-term relationships, meaning he's older than she is, of
Right.
course, not the other way around. Um, so I think you know a 22-year-old, that's a 2 year difference. Um, could potentially work. Again, you'd have to assess his character and the traits of his family, but you're going to have a better chance as a father anyway, assessing a man's character traits if he's 30, 35 versus 22,
Right.
right? Because he's been around, he's done more with his life. You can see what he's been up to, what he's been doing, right? Because a man's value to a woman is his future. Can he preside? Can he protect? Can he make it rain? Is he competent? Does he have a good social network? Like, is he a man of virtue and character? Whereas a woman's value to a guy is her past. Did she preserve her purity? Or did she just run around and share her body with a whole bunch of guys? Right? Because that's
Mhm.
disgusting. Most guys are disinterested in that on a long-term basis. So it's different conversations, when it comes to marriage and long-term relationships. I really think, and it's going to vary, like year upon year too. Depending on if it's in their 20s or the 30s or whatever it happens to be.
I very much agree. I because I'll hear, right. I just turned 30. I've never been married. I've had girlfriends and whatnot, and I've lived my life. But I am someone who doesn't need someone to motivate me. I think there are some men, and I think this is a big issue for these men. They need a woman in order to get their ass off the couch. The woman is what's
Yeah.
getting them to go and get things done. And if they break up with that girl, they're back to couch potato, doing nothing, unmotivated. And
Yeah,
so,
those guys were nothing to begin with. They're basically with nags then. And if you have to be nagged to make something out of yourself, you're not a man, in my opinion. You're a male, but you're not a man.
right, this it's much more common than not, much more common than
Well,
not.
well, a lot of, males today are adult boys, is all
Right.
they are. They think that it's enough to go get a job and, work 9 to 5 and they make their $47,000 a year and they have their Nissan Leaf they plug in every night and they
That's the
drive to work.
issue. That's
you
and
know
then
the,
that's
they,
sorry. Yeah, you go
they
ahead.
live very common basic lives, and their evenings are filled with video games and weed and porn and all that kind of, like, they
Mhm.
satiate themselves, with these things to keep them distracted. And of course, they follow everything the mainstream media says. You want to jump how high? You want me to do this? Sure, absolutely. How many times do you want me to take that? There's all of these softer, weaker males out today that aren't men. And that's what good times create. Good times do create softer men, and that's a consequence of the times that we live in today. I think that we're going to see some harder times in the coming years, and things are going to become more difficult, and that'll separate the wheat from the chaff, and that'll, there's that whole fourth turning, right? We're sort of like moving into the fourth turning right now, where we're coming into the better times, but there's going to be a little bit more difficulty still, and I think that these guys will be tested.
For sure. But I think that I'm really glad I got this clarity, and I think I already understood this, but yeah, I because people will say, and I'll be honest, I'll they're especially in my circles, Orthodox Jews, some of the rabbis, they'll say, oh, you know, don't worry about money. As soon as you find the girl, God will bless you with all this wealth and whatever. And
Yeah,
I'm and I'm
that's
and I'm look I look at it and I'm like, it's crazy how many people blindly just believe this guy. I
yeah, and
don't care how long your beard is. I don't care how
it's
long
not
your
just
beard is.
Judaism, it's not just Christianity. Like, they're all the same. Most religions today are beta factories, and they're not leading males into adulthood, into men. Like, you guys in your religion, you have the rite of passage. What is it, when they're 13?
Right.
What's it called? The
Bar mitzvah. No,
bar
but there's
mitzvah.
also a lot of,
Yeah,
see, the thing is, original Judaism was not kind of this feminist thing. That people have reformed it because it's too
exactly.
offensive, but there's a
It's
lot
not
of
the original
biblical
version of the rule
scriptures that are
book.
not
I had this
that do not.
conversation with a couple of Christian guys a few days ago. I don't know if you saw the podcast that I did where they wanted to talk about the Christian pill. And it's like, they're of the illusion that if she just loves God enough and has a strong enough relationship with Jesus, everything will be just fine. And that's not how the world works, man. Like, you can't go and put 200,000 miles on a Ferrari, pull out all the dents, clean up the scratches, change the carpeting, roll back the odometer back to zero, put it in the showroom and call it new. It's not new.
Right.
It's got problems. You can call it new, but it's got problems. And that's, I think, one of the great failures of a lot of modern religions today, especially in the West, is like you mentioned, is toxic feminism has polluted the original messaging from the original rule book, which led men to be masculine leaders and led women to be like feminine complements to their lives, right? Where men would
Yeah.
have blue jobs and women would have pink jobs, sort of thing. So I think if you're going to sell any religion, you really need to fix the club first, because there's infighting, there's disagreement, there's censorship of certain terms in scripture, whether it's the Torah or the Bible or whatever it happens to be, to soften it down, to be more inclusive, to not offend, feminists or anything like that. So, it's a real problem today. It really is.
It absolutely is. I had a point that I just lost it because it was in regards to this. I'm trying to bring it back because I really wanted to make the point. Either way, I didn't come to it. I'm sure it'll either come up at
It'll
the end
come
of
up
the
after.
episode or oh my God, it was a good one. It was a good one too. Wait, it has to do with okay, well damn. Okay, well either way. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention? Hopefully while you're talking I'll come up with this
No,
point
I
again.
can't think of anything, man. You just fire away any other questions you got.
Wait, I think I got it. Yes, I got it. My counter to rabbis making these statements is no. I think if you're already motivated, this is my caveat. If you're an already motivated man, where you on your own accord have goals, aspirations, you get up, you go to the gym, you work hard, you have your own business you're trying to run, you
Mm,
really have things that are important to you, with or without a woman, the right woman, a woman who's a complement to you, will help build it. People will see that you're settled.
mm,
They'll see, she's attractive. You've found an attractive woman inside and outside. Then I think it'll be a compliment. It'll show your softer side, right? Because if you're a masculine guy,
yeah.
they'll see a beautiful, gentle woman by your side. That'll be a compliment to you. She'll help support you in your, say you're going through something. You don't necessarily have to be overly vulnerable, but she's your support system. She can help take care of certain things. You're out working, she can
Hmm.
make food. You're
That's what
out
I talk about.
doing,
Yeah, it's a
and
whole unplugging process. It's absolutely a reality. Hope is a terrible plan, and I think that's what a lot of religions sell today is just hope. If you just be a nice guy and you're a good person, you show up to a church and you tithe, or whatever it happens to be, uh, your God will send you a woman. You are entitled to it, and you're not entitled to shit. And hope is a bad plan.
well, in Judaism, there is an idea of you have to do your part. We don't believe that you can sit around and do nothing. That's why I'm not the most religious person, but if you look at Judaism in its at its core, without all the buttering and sugarcoating, there are very, very, very good components that are very true. And I truthfully think that I can't speak for Christianity and Islam. People would look at Islam and say that as well, even though both of those religions really get a lot of their principles from Judaism. Judaism at its core, it's pretty red pilled, man.
Mhm.
It definitely speaks about a lot of things in support of women, but it definitely has gender roles. It definitely talks about modesty, talks about all these things. So
Yeah.
that's why I think listening to all of this content in the last couple of years, I think I already had a good idea of it because of how I was raised. And then obviously I learned it through experience. But that's my 2 cents. I definitely don't think you have to be a religious person to have these understandings, but at least certain religious values I think could be helpful.
Yeah, it's independent of any religion, for being honest.
Right, for sure. Okay, so that definitely covers the episode. We're just under an hour. So, ladies and gents, I hope you liked the
Thank you.
episode. Yeah, Rich, thank you for coming on.
And thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, guys, I will attach any links to any of his YouTube channels, his book, well, both of his books. You have the Unplugged Alpha version 1 and 2. Is there something else
Yeah,
that
the
I
second
missed?
edition is all you need. You can find everything on my website. If you just go to richcooper.ca, you'll find my YouTube,
Okay,
my books, my courses, everything.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was quite a lot. If you guys have anything to share, any disagreements, feel free to leave your comments. And this has been another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. I look forward to having you guys tune into the next episode.
Perfect.